Okay, so let's move on now and let's have a look at something beyond characters and analysing characters. Let's have a look at our themes. Okay, so there's a range of themes in Pride and Prejudice, and learning how these themes intersect, learning how they overlap and relate with one another is going to allow you to much more clearly understand and respond to essay questions. At heart, every essay question can be linked to themes, okay? Some are more difficult, particularly essay questions that look at literary techniques that actually ask you, for example, one of the literary techniques or devices in Pride and Prejudice is epistolary fiction. It's the use of letters. So one of the things that Jane Austen does to move the plot along and to give you a sense of people's thoughts and feelings and their evolving relationships is include letters in her novel. So you could get an essay question that might ask, in what way does epistolary fiction drive the plot of Pride and Prejudice? And that is far less about themes overtly, but it's still related. So having a look at these themes and understanding them is going to be really important. And what I suggest that you do over time is that you colour code quotes for theme, and that you have a table that looks at what quotes relate to what theme. And where you can get quotes overlapping several themes, that's where you're really sort of starting to think about usable quotes. At the end of the day, I reckon you can only memorise about 20 quotes. So there've got to be 20 good ones. There can't be 20 dodgy ones. So you want quotes that you can use across a range of themes. Okay? So the title of the novel in itself is quite symbolic, Pride and Prejudice. Of course, what was the novel first called? Does anyone know what the novel was first called? Its working title? Does anyone know? Let's have a look. Does anyone know what the working title of this was? Oh, come on. There's a cowboy hat in the background. I could throw it on your head virtually. It was called First Impressions. I know, it was called First Impressions. Now, both are really interesting titles, because what are Darcy's and Lizzie's first impressions of one another? Okay, he shows pride in thinking that she is beneath him, and Lizzie is prejudiced against him from the outset based on her perceptions of what he is. Yep, Emily, you're absolutely right there. Thank you. Woo! Yay, Emily. See the E's are coming now forward to overtake the A's. Okay, so Pride and Prejudice are really clear ones, and what you don't want to do is you don't want to see these as just, oh yes, the person who had pride was Darcy, the person who was prejudiced was Lizzie. It's far more complex than that. It's interwoven. Now, some people overcome their pride and their prejudice, other people do not. Okay, this is also about families and about family connections and about the ways in which families shape the lives of women particularly. It's about marriage, and in some ways Austen is comparing marriages. We see a range of different marriages. What kind of marriages do we see? What kind of marriages do we see? Do we see like romantic love marriages, a love match? Yeah, sure we do. Okay, we see a couple of love matches here. We see certainly Jane and Bingley, although it tends to be sort of a superficial love, not a deep love. They don't know each other that well. We do see that notion of romantic love also with Lizzie and with Darcy, who marry for love. Do we see marriage for convenience? Absolutely we do. We see marriage for convenience with Charlotte and Mrs. Collins. We see marriage for, yes, marriage for money. Albert, who is the I want to get married to get money? It's a man. Wickham, you evil man. Okay, so you're right, yeah. So you do. It's not just women who marry for money. It can be men as well. And he engages in some form of, much ado again, trickery by trying to seduce Lydia. And remember, who had Wickham tried to seduce earlier? None other than Darcy's younger sister, Georgiana. Okay, so this is about class. It's about a hierarchical, rigid class. class structure and how there were expectations about who could marry whom, okay? So Lady de Burgh says to Lizzie, you know, you are not a gentlewoman. And she said, I am a gentleman's daughter. I am the same as you. So she challenges this sort of hierarchy, this really rigid hierarchy. And we see class really well played out in settings. Okay, so compare Rosings Park. Okay, so Rosings Park is where Lady de Burgh lives. If you have a look at, that's all of the description in there, all of the imagery is about all this grandiose windows and all of these, you know, beautiful shrubbery and all of the fancy things. When we see descriptions of other locations, we don't get that kind of description that's focused on material objects. What that suggests is that Jane Austen is writing in a manner that reflects the character of de Burgh, so concerned with material possessions, so concerned with looking rich, okay? So that's really interesting. And of course, this is a play about reputation. And it's not just women's reputation. Okay, what about Wickham's reputation? What about the damage done to Darcy's reputation in the eyes of Lizzie because of Wickham's lies? There's a whole range of things here that you can do that are really, really useful, okay? So starting to think about these themes and what they might mean is really important. Now, you'll be reading a whole range of different study guides, sorry. So you've got one from obviously TSFX. I encourage you to read a broad range of them. What you'll notice is that many of them have different lists of themes. That's okay. You've got to come up with your list of themes. And one way to do that is to have a look at what other people think. Another way to do it, and I often do this in the revision lectures in July and in the master classes, of course, and the exam revision lectures in September, what we do across these different lecture sets is you get more and more detailed notes. So as we head into masterclass and further into the year, we start to actually piece these together. So I put them as hexagons, actually, like a sort of like a beehive look. And I have a look at how do these particular themes relate to one another in view of specific questions, okay? So it's about how would you piece it up if you're replying to a question that asked you about X, okay? So thinking about this is really important, okay? Now it's 4:36 now. What we're going to do is have a 5-minute break so you can go to the toilet, get a water. Please come back, hang in there, 1 hour to go, and then you get to have a relax. Remember, this is the start of your Pride and Prejudice, you know, journey. If you come away with from today with a few things that you're going to do in the next week or so, that's a success. And you might get some of those things in the next hour, okay? So 5 minutes, let's come back at 4:41.